Welcome to the second episode of the Holocene Biography Series. Our guest in this episode is a crazy businessman who is already changing the world with his big vision, courage, willpower, and ability to mobilize the people around him. I am sure that many of you have already heard of him, but do you really know him? When I asked myself this question and started researching Elon Musk's life, I realized that I didn't really know him, and now I want to tell you what I learned. When Musk started to make a name for himself in the business world, everyone thought his pompous speeches were straight out of a science fiction novel. Electric cars, rockets, trips to Mars, clean energy. To the business world, these were not things that private companies could achieve. But by early 2012, everyone realized what Musk was really achieving. His companies, once the target of criticism, were succeeding in unique business lines. SpaceX, for example, sent a resupply capsule to the International Space Station and brought it safely back to Earth. Tesla introduced the all-electric Model S, which took the breath away from the automotive industry. Thus, Musk not only showed that he kept his promises, but was also on his way to becoming one of the rare business people who could succeed in different industries. Today, what he has done is much more than that. I'm going to tell you all about it. In recent years, the companies of this man who was once considered crazy by everyone have grown so fast that everyone is looking to invest in them. Before we talk about his achievements, let me tell you a little about Musk's early life so you can get to know him better. Elon's mother's side was full of interesting characters. His grandfather Joshua lived in Canada, and Elon's mother, May, was born there. But his grandfather and grandmother had adventurous spirits, so they sold up and moved to South Africa. There they traveled the world in a single-engine airplane on long trips to find the lost city of the Kalahari Desert. Elon heard many stories about his grandfather Joshua's travels throughout his childhood. Maybe he inherited the high risk-taking nature he has now from his grandparents. His mother, May, was a hard-working student in her youth. She loved math and science. But by age 15, May's beauty began to come to the fore. She reached the finals of the Miss South Africa contest, thus began a modeling career that would continue into her 60s. What about his father's side? Elon's father, Elon Musk, was a white man born in South Africa. He worked in mechanical and electrical engineering. The Musks were financially well off. Errol took his children on various overseas trips. He impressed his children with his intelligence and taught them some practical lessons. Errol and May grew up in the same neighborhood. Errol was 5 years older than May. May was 11 when they met for the first time. The couple were in a relationship throughout college. May wasn't too keen on marriage, but Errol was such a persistent man that he tried tirelessly to convince May to marry him for 7 years. Finally, May gave in, and they were married in 1970. On June 28, 1971, 9 months and 2 days into their marriage, a child was born to this indomitable man, and the woman beautiful enough to be a model. Elon Musk. He was born in Pretoria, South Africa. A year later, her brother Kimball was born, and 2 years after Kimball, their sister Tosca was born. At the time, South Africa was full of tension and violence, and racism was rampant. Add to this Elon's reserved personality and strange tendencies, and he became a stranger in Africa. He also sometimes fell into a kind of trance. This happened so often that his family suspected he had a deafness problem, but that was not a problem. Elon was isolating himself from the world in this way so he could focus deeply on the dreams he had in his head. Another remarkable characteristic of him was that he was almost obsessed with reading. From an early age, he never walked around without a book. Reading 10 hours a day was quite normal for him. He finished all the books in the library of his school and the neighboring school. Whenever his family went shopping, Elon would dive into a bookstore and go into a trance with a book in a secluded corner. He became known as the Wunderkind. When they had dinner together in the evenings, his parents would ask Elon questions and were amazed by the answers. But there was a downside to this smartness. His constant correction of people's mistakes alienated the other children from Elon. Even his siblings complained to his mother about Elon. Whenever his mother asked them to include Elon, they complained that he was no fun. Fortunately, this situation improved later on. Thanks to Errol's success as an engineer, the Musk family owned one of the biggest houses in Pretoria. At first, they had a happy life, but things changed when Errol and May divorced in 1979. May moved with the children to a summer house on the east coast of South Africa. After a few years, Elon felt sorry for his father and decided to live with him. A few years later, his brother Kimball joined them. When Elon was 10 years old, he saw a computer for the first time in a shopping mall in Johannesburg. At that moment, he realized that this machine was important. He insisted that his father buy him one. So, his first computer was the Commodore VIC-20. It had 5 kilobytes of memory and was sold with an exercise book on the basic programming language. Elon was so curious that he finished the months-long book in 3 days. Musk's high school life was not as fun as his private life. He was constantly bullied and beaten up by kids at school. Sometimes it even went so far that the only option for Musk was to hide. Once, his friends threw him down the stairs and beat him until he passed out. When he woke up, he found himself in the hospital. According to his friends, there was no sign that Elon would become a billionaire in those years. He had never been a leader at school. He wasn't a child prodigy, but he got good grades. He had a keen interest in physics and computers, and was obsessed with programming. When he was 13 years old, he won a substantial sum of money for the first time, $500. He got it for designing a sci-fi space-themed game called Blastar. Musk's game wasn't great in the computer world, but for a 13-year-old boy it did pretty well. As Musk grew into adulthood, his view of the world's deterioration grew ever stronger in his mind. At an early age, he dreamed of a place where he could escape his home country and fulfill his dreams. From the books he read, he concluded that the United States of America was the best fit for this description. After all, it was the land of great opportunity and the first place that came to mind regarding technology and space. But there was a problem. Could he go to America on his own? He wasn't even a major yet. Musk left South Africa for Canada when he was just 17 years old. He wanted to get to the US as soon as possible, and it would be wise to use Canada as an intermediate stop. The opportunity to leave South Africa came with a change in the law that allowed Elon's mother to pass on Canadian citizenship to her children. It took about a year to get the Canadian government's approval and issue a Canadian passport. Then Elon bought his plane ticket and left South Africa. When he landed in Canada in June 1988, Musk had no place to stay or money. He spent that year doing hard labor across Canada. Once he even got a job cleaning the boiler of a sawmill. It was a drudge and dangerous job. When his mother and siblings moved to Canada a year later, he relaxed a bit. Elon enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario in 1989, but it wasn't all about getting in and out of classes. Apart from attending classes, he and his brother Kimball looked for opportunities to meet business people they didn't know. While Elon was pursuing career opportunities, he also had a girlfriend at university. Justine Wilson was a very attractive and intelligent girl. Musk was immediately intrigued. He accidentally pretended to bump into her in front of the dormitory and asked her out. The two young people had a relationship for a while and then broke up. Justine was a cool girl and had a lot of guys chasing her. After she broke up with Musk, she never called him again. But even in those years, no was not a word in Elon's vocabulary. I think it's safe to say he takes after his father here. He pursued Justine. Eventually, this relationship turned into a marriage. Look what Justine says about those years. Elon would call very persistently. You always knew it was him because the phone never stopped ringing. You couldn't get rid of him. He wouldn't take no for an answer. I used to compare him to the Terminator. He would lock his gaze on something and say, "It will be mine." Step by step, he won me over. After completing his sophomore year in Queens in 1992, Musk transferred to the University of Pennsylvania thanks to a scholarship. He finally arrived in the United States, the country of his dreams. Here, he decided to pursue a second major. The University of Pennsylvania was full of like-minded people, and he opened up even more here. Elon found a different way to make money here with the help of a crazy friend named Hideo Resi. Instead of staying in a dorm, they rented a big house off campus and turned it into a nightclub on weekends. Once, even Elon's mom visited them, and they sold tickets at the door together. The revenue was excellent. They could earn a month's rent for the house in one night. Elon's time at the University of Pennsylvania was marked by his contemplation of solar energy, the internet, and rechargeable batteries. His writings on these subjects, which were well received by his teachers, hinted at his future ambitions. While he hadn't yet charted his post-university course, his overarching goal was clear: to develop technologies that would shape the future and bring about benefits for humanity. His key areas of interest were space exploration, clean energy, and the internet. So, he earned bachelor's degrees in economics and physics. Now it was time to move on to bigger goals. After finishing his undergraduate studies, Elon Musk sought a PhD in materials science and physics at Stanford University. But the irresistible call of the internet made him quit PhD 2 days after he started. Elon had something else on his mind. School was a big waste of time. He had to do something that would make a name for himself in the world. So he decided the right thing to do was to move to Silicon Valley, a land of technology and innovation. He convinced his brother Kimball, and they moved in together. Here, the two brothers could make a name for themselves in the internet world. In 1995, Elon first applied for a job at the internet company Netscape, but was not hired. It wasn't something he really wanted anyway, so the Musk brothers started their first venture, a company called Zip2. While Kimball went door to door trying to increase sales, Elon wrote the codes. At the time, businesses were extremely ignorant about the benefits of the internet. People thought it was stupid to advertise online. They didn't want to invest money in something unknown. Zip2 was a software that provided information about various businesses and linked it to a city map. You can think of it like Google Maps today. It was a pretty genius idea for those years. Elon Musk gave $28,000 to help his sons during this period. But after renting an office, buying software licenses and some hardware, the Musk brothers ran out of money. They couldn't even rent a house. So, for the first 3 months of Zip2, Musk and his brother lived in the office. Then, they were able to move into an apartment and slowly started hiring new people. But nothing changed for Elon. He worked as hard as ever and slept on a stuffed sack that he threw next to his desk in the office. Perhaps the only thing that kept the employees motivated was Elon's continuous improvement of the Zip2 software. In early 1996, Zip2 underwent a significant change. More Davido Ventures, an investment company, invested $3 million in Zip2. This allowed Zip2 to move to a larger office and hire talented engineers. Zip2 advanced its technology and expanded its reach to cover the whole country. Building Zip2 and watching it grow gave Musk a huge boost in confidence. The company now had a board of directors and became increasingly successful. Finally, in February 1999, computer manufacturer Compaq offered to pay $307 million in cash for Zip2. Zip2's board of directors accepted the offer. Although Elon was not happy with this deal, he had to respect the board's decision. More Davido multiplied its investment by 20 times. Thanks to the agreement, Elon's share was $22 million and his brother's share was $15 million. It took Elon less than 10 years to go from a nomadic African with a backpack to a 27-year-old American multimillionaire. Now, it was time to pursue new opportunities. The first thing Musk did with the money from his first venture was to buy a 200-square-meter apartment, a $1 million sports car, and a propeller plane. He then took piloting lessons and learned how to fly an airplane. For his next venture, he wanted to start a financial firm that provided online services. In March 1999, he paid his taxes and then invested $12 million in a new company called X.com, leaving him with only $4 million. Elon Musk was taking a big risk with this venture. He invested most of his money in a risky sector like finance. This job wasn't going to be like software that shows the location of businesses on a map. This was people's money at stake. Musk assembled an all-star team for X.com. 4 people took part in the company's founding with him. Thanks to his huge investment before anyone else, Musk was the company's largest shareholder. The company's founders felt that the banking industry was behind the times and that dealing with the teller was no longer necessary. So, X.com would become one of the world's first online banks, But such a business ran into incredible legal difficulties. Besides, hackers were at work. It was tough to convince investors. As the months progressed, dozens of engineers joined the team. The company formed partnerships. X.com launched in November 1999. The company's goal was to create a nimble banking system that would move money from slow banks that took days to process payments to banks that handled money with just a few mouse clicks and an email account. The system was revolutionary at the time, with more than 200,000 people signing up in the first few months of operation. Musk was as ambitious in this job as in his first. He put the engineers in a competitive environment where they would work more than 15 hours daily. He worked even more than that. In January 2000, Elon and Justine got married. They couldn't even have a honeymoon. In March, X.com merged with rival Confinity and raised $100 million from financiers. However, some in the company found Musk's CEO role excessive. They set him up. Musk had barely been on a honeymoon 9 months after marrying his wife. They voted to remove him as CEO while he was flying, so he couldn't defend himself. The new CEO, Thiel, renamed X.com as PayPal. Musk showed incredible patience during this process and took on the advisor role. He supported the new CEO and continued to invest in the company. Thus, he was again PayPal's largest shareholder. The following year, eBay, an auction shopping site, made an offer to buy PayPal. PayPal's executives thought the company had reached saturation point and should be sold as soon as possible. But Musk and Moritz wanted to wait for a higher price. They convinced the management, and their resistance paid off. In June 2002, eBay offered $1.5 billion for PayPal. The board of directors accepted the deal. Musk would receive a net $180 million from this sale. What would you do in Elon Musk's shoes? You now have so much money that you can live comfortably for the rest of your life. You can patiently wait for new opportunities in low-risk industries. But Musk didn't want to stop. He could never see himself as someone who would just lie on the beach and sip a drink. For him, busy working life and the pursuit of big goals were more exciting than a vacation. And he needed a lot more than that to realize his grand vision. Musk had space on his mind. Elon and his wife wanted to spend the next chapter of their lives in the South, in Los Angeles. But it wasn't the luxury and glamour of Los Angeles that drew Musk here. It was also the heart of the space industry. One of the first things Musk did here was to join a nonprofit organization called the Mars Society. He donated $100,000 to a research station in the desert. However, Musk's goal was to send spacecraft to Mars rather than do this kind of research on Earth. Of course, this was a very difficult goal. It required competing with governments. One day, he was disappointed when he looked at NASA's website. He expected to find a detailed plan for Mars exploration, but NASA had no such plan. Or had humanity given up on its ideals of pushing the boundaries? To Musk, this was unacceptable. So he resigned from the Mars Society and announced his own organization, Life to Mars Foundation. Elon has set aside $30 million for Mars, but this money was ridiculous for Mars, to say the least. Just launching a rocket could have used up that money. There were also huge engineering problems to solve. His friends organized meetings many times to dissuade him from this crazy idea, because if he had attempted such a risky business, all his money could have gone down the drain in one go. But Musk had no intention of giving up. Thus, he made visits to Russia with his friends. He wanted to buy rockets from the Russians. Russia was the only country with rockets that could fit Musk's budget. But he gave up when he saw the Russians' lack of seriousness about doing business. And he got a little angry. Suddenly, he became the knowledge-hungry man he had been as a child. He spent months reading every book he could find on aviation, the space industry, and rocket science. More and more crazy things started to go through his head. He made drawings and made notes. Finally, he said to his friends, "Hey guys, I think we can build this rocket ourselves." Elon's friends, many of whom were experts in their respective fields, had heard this story before. They had witnessed numerous wealthy individuals embark on similar ventures only to fail. They were convinced that Elon was destined for the same fate. He couldn't have found a better way to end himself. Elon realized that Mars had to remain a much more advanced goal. His new goal was this: he would target the lower end of the satellite market and design an ideal rocket for the small payload class. If they could lower the costs per launch, they could directly address an entirely new market. Thus, Musk's riskiest venture was born. SpaceX was founded in 2002. In 2002, Musk added U.S. citizenship to his South African and Canadian citizenship. SpaceX's first building was a 7,500 square meter warehouse in Los Angeles. Revolutionary and innovative ideas were being tested to build rockets faster and cheaper than anyone else. At the time, there was very little competition between aerospace companies, and they were making products extremely expensive, so SpaceX would develop its rockets from scratch. According to Musk's ambitious plans, the first launch would take place 15 months after the company was founded. A trip to Mars would take place around 2010. From 1957 to 1966, the U.S. alone carried out more than 400 launches into orbit, of which about 100 failed. But SpaceX didn't have the budget for a series of explosions. For the Falcon 1 project, the company had, at best, 3 or 4 chances. People kept rumoring that this was madness. SpaceX had competitors from giant companies like Lockheed Martin and Boeing, and it seemed impossible for a private company with a limited budget to compete with prominent government agencies like NASA, European Space Agency, or Roscosmos. And this was not just an economic and technological race. They would also have to deal with many political issues. During SpaceX's first year, 2 new employees joined the company almost every week. A 300-acre test site was purchased in Texas. Stands were built. New engines were designed. Engines were tested in this space. A lot of data was collected. There were many failures. Nerves were strained. Musk demanded a lot from his employees, but he spared no expense to ensure that any obstacles were immediately removed. By late 2003, the empty warehouse in California turned into an absolute rocket factory. Despite working 6 or even 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, Musk sometimes allowed his employees to have fun. In groups of 20, they would play games like Counter-Strike. Interestingly, Elon was better at these games than anyone else. He usually beat all his employees with his incredible reflexes. With new hires, SpaceX outgrew its building. It expanded to fill multiple buildings in the El Segundo facilities. And finally, on March 24, 2006, the first launch took place on Kwaj Island in the Pacific Ocean. But the launch failed. 20 seconds after the launch, a fire started, and the rocket fell back to Earth uncontrollably. After almost a year of hard work, SpaceX was ready for another launch attempt. In March 2007, a new Falcon 1 rocket was launched. For the first 5 minutes, everything was fine, but in the 6th minute, the rocket blew up. This second blow to SpaceX engineers was too heartbreaking. By the time SpaceX was able to make another launch attempt, it would have been 4 years past Musk's original goal. In addition, the company was rapidly burning through the money it had made in the internet sector. They could have made a maximum of 2 more attempts. It was such a risk that Elon could have ended up penniless and discredited. While Elon Musk was continuing his work on SpaceX, he was also in business negotiations about electric cars. Yes, you heard right. He was already in a high-risk business, and his fate was uncertain. Nevertheless, he was taking another big risk. Before Elon Musk, on July 1, 2003, 2 engineers, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, had founded a company to produce electric vehicles. Eberhard had named the company Tesla Motors because it was inspired by Nikola Tesla, the inventor of electric motors, and because it sounded cool. However, the automobile industry was also very risky. Chrysler was the last successful company in the American automobile industry, founded in 1925. Designing and producing an automobile from scratch was difficult and expensive, and it was even more complicated if the car was to be all electric. Tesla's founders were aware of all the challenges and needed a visionary and risk-taking business person to invest in their company. There was someone like that, As you can imagine, their paths crossed with Elon Musk. Musk saw this business as the future industry and embraced it because it benefited the world on issues such as global climate change and oil dependency. Thus, in 2004, he became Tesla's largest shareholder and chairman with an investment of $6.5 million. Tesla soon rapidly increased the number of engineers. Then, a 1,000-square-meter workshop was set up in Silicon Valley to design a prototype of what they called the Roadster. The facility gradually evolved into a cool R&D center. What required advanced work was the battery that would power the car. The work that started in 2004 produced a completely new car in 2005. Musk was pleased with the result and decided to continue his investment. The company planned to deliver the Roadster to customers in early 2006. However, a significant hurdle emerged. The batteries for the cars posed serious safety concerns with a potential risk of explosion. Undeterred, a dedicated team of 6 individuals was assembled. Their mission: to develop techniques that would completely eliminate these explosions. This was a pivotal moment for Tesla, as they were on the brink of inventing battery technology that would leave their competitors trailing for years and become one of the company's most significant advantages. The moment had arrived to proudly display the Tesla logo on the vehicle. A team of talented designers was brought on board, tasked with creating a vehicle that would capture hearts. After countless hours of dedication and numerous revisions, the first prototype of the Roadster was unveiled in May 2006. With its impressive 0 to 100 kilometers in 4 seconds, the Roadster was a marvel. This achievement not only garnered another $40 million of investment from various companies, but also saw a group of tech billionaires placing orders for 30 Roadsters, each priced at $90,000. Amidst a period of progress, Tesla unveiled a significant addition to its future plans. A new, more affordable 4-door car, priced under $50,000, was set to hit the market within 3 years. This groundbreaking model was none other than the Model S, a testament to Tesla's commitment to innovation. By mid-2007, Tesla's workforce had grown to 260 employees. They were embarking on a seemingly impossible mission to build the world's fastest and most aesthetically pleasing electric car, virtually from scratch. The next hurdle was mass production, a challenge that pushed the company to the brink of bankruptcy, but also showcased its resilience and determination. The biggest mistake was the Roadster's transmission system. There would also be other problems with the car in the future. Thus, Tesla's launch time had to be postponed. There were also problems to the battery factories that wanted to be built outside the country. Amidst the turmoil, when the budget was stretched to its limits and everything seemed to be in disarray, Elon Musk's commitment to Tesla's growth remained steadfast. He was resolute in not selling the company or relinquishing control through a partnership. Instead, he chose to expand the company, pushing everyone to their limits and ensuring that his employees mirrored his dedication. Those who didn't meet the mark were swiftly let go. By the end of 2007, the company was almost out of money. The Roadster had cost $140 million to develop. Elon was about to have a nervous breakdown, losing his entire fortune. These were difficult times for Elon Musk and his employees. SpaceX's second launch attempt had failed, and the reports from Tesla were getting worse every day. Musk had invested close to $200 million in these 2 adventures. Despite spending most of his money, there was neither a rocket in orbit nor an electric car on the road. His family life was also deteriorating, with the strain of his work taking a toll on his marriage. In 2008, he and his first wife divorced, a painful personal setback. Elon would later marry Tallulah Riley, a British actress, but the challenges in his personal life continued to mount. In the meantime, SpaceX would make the 3rd launch attempt of the Falcon 1 on Kwaj Island. That put a lot of pressure on Musk. It could have been their last chance. Instead of concentrating on this, Musk gave his engineers the task of designing the Falcon 9 rocket, which would also have 9 engines. The 3rd launch also failed. Everyone was devastated, their hopes dashed. Musk, however, refused to let despair take hold. He consoled everyone by saying, "We're going to make it one way or another, don't be afraid." He also created a positive public atmosphere, showing his unwavering belief in the mission. He said that a fourth rocket was waiting for a test, and a fifth test was planned. In fact, it was unclear whether the fourth attempt would even take place, but Musk's resilience and determination remained unshaken. On September 28, 2008, the final launch took place on Kwaj Island. SpaceX employees had worked non-stop and agonizing shifts to get to this day. All employees were watching the launch on the internet, biting their fingernails. The media was also covering the launch. About 9 minutes into the launch, they looked like the years of hard work had finally paid off. Falcon 1 silenced its engines as planned and reached orbit. For the first time in history, a private company had accomplished such a feat, launching a rocket into space. This was not just Musk's triumph, but a victory for the entire SpaceX team. There were shouts of joy. Everyone burst into tears. It had taken 6 years, far beyond Musk's plans. This miracle of modern science and business had finally become a reality with the dedicated work of 500 people, a testament to the power of teamwork and collective effort. Something big had been achieved, but there was no change in the fact that Musk was struggling financially. The success of the Falcon 1 had not yet translated into financial stability. Projects like the Falcon 9 and the Dragon capsule required incredible money, and SpaceX was still not a money-making company. Nevertheless, the pace of hiring increased and the company moved to a bigger headquarters. Musk was willing to risk his personal fortune for the sake of his vision, a testament to his unwavering commitment. In other words, everything was just beginning, and the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. Meanwhile, there were constant negative articles about Tesla. There were rumors that it would never be able to deliver its orders to its customers. The company had indeed exhausted even the money from pre-orders. Adding to the pressure, Elon's personal life was also under the spotlight, with his first wife, Justine, often making public comments about their relationship. Elon later reflected on this challenging time. "I felt like I was being beaten. There were so many people at the time who took pleasure in other people's pain. There were constantly negative articles and news about my companies. I didn't have enough money to keep both companies afloat. I was having nightmares at night. I started to lose faith that we could overcome this." In December 2008, a miracle happened. NASA put out a tender for the transportation of supplies to the International Space Station. This was not just good news, it was a turning point. SpaceX received $1.6 billion for 12 flights to the ISS. Musk transferred some of the money to Tesla, which was also relieved. As you know, the world was in a crisis in 2008. This difficult year was the most challenging for this visionary entrepreneur who came to the US with nothing. Anyone else would have collapsed completely, unable to withstand so much stress, failure, and intimidation, making irrational decisions. But Elon Musk, with his remarkable ability to stay focused and make rational decisions even in the midst of a crisis, stood out from his competitors. You more or less know the next part of the story. SpaceX has consistently posted profits since the hard times of 2008. Today, it is worth about $200 billion. It sends dozens of rockets into space every year under various commercial agreements. Its cost per launch makes it much more advantageous than other competitors. Because it can produce 90% of its machines and devices from scratch in the USA, it is almost not dependent on anyone. But do you know what SpaceX's most important innovation is? It has built rockets that can land back on the launch pad. As you know, in all launches until SpaceX, rockets were a garbage after launch. In other words, they would fall into the sea and disintegrate. This is such a development that we can exemplify it like this. Imagine throwing away a Boeing 777 for a flight from America to Europe at every turn. How much money would people have to pay for such a flight? SpaceX has eliminated this enormous cost with its returnable rockets. It can now launch rockets at 1/10 the cost of its competitors. In 2018, SpaceX launched the Falcon Heavy, Combining 3 Falcon 9s with 27 engines, Falcon Heavy could carry more than 53 metric tons of payload into orbit. This meant carrying twice the payload for 1/3 the price of its competitors. As the first mission, Falcon Heavy sent a Tesla Roadster into space. So, is it over? Absolutely not. Since 2019, the Starship rocket, a fully reusable marvel capable of carrying even the most massive payloads, has been in development. Boasting a payload capacity of 150 metric tons, Starship has shattered records to become the largest rocket in history. The construction of the Starbase spaceport in South Texas is a testament to the grandeur of this project. As of 2024, Starship has triumphed in 3 integrated flight tests, propelling Elon Musk closer to his ambitious goals. And the excitement doesn't stop there. The Starship Human Landing System variant is poised to land astronauts on the Moon in 2026, a momentous milestone in the US-led Artemis program. In 2020, SpaceX left behind one of its most important milestones. It sent astronauts to the International Space Station with its Dragon capsule. Thus, for the first time in history, a private company sent astronauts into space. You know what the next goal is: to send astronauts to the Moon and Mars. While SpaceX was making headlines, what was Tesla doing? It was quietly revolutionizing the automotive industry. In 2012, it unveiled the all-electric Whisper Quiet Model S, a car that could travel an impressive 500 kilometers on a single charge and accelerate to 100 kilometers per hour in just 4.2 seconds. This innovative vehicle could comfortably seat 7 people, had 2 trunks, and outperformed many luxury sedans in terms of speed, technology, handling, and trunk capacity. Besides, it boasted the highest safety scores in history and offered free charging at Tesla stations worldwide. These are not the only things that make Tesla cars stand out from the rest of the pack. The Model S increased the efficiency of a car with an internal combustion engine from about 15% to 60%, a 4-fold improvement that was incredible. This was achieved through Tesla's innovative electric drivetrain technology. You also save on maintenance costs, time and money on trivial things like oil and filter changes. Also, since Tesla sells its cars directly itself, there was no commission paid to intermediary companies. As you can see, the company has revolutionized the automotive industry. In 2010, Tesla went public and raised $226 million and expanded its army of engineers. In 2013, it stunned Wall Street by announcing a profit of $562 million, a testament to its financial stability and growth potential. Its stock skyrocketed from $30 to $130. It further improved Model S. It launched the Model X, Model Y, and Model 3. Finally, it made its cars autonomous. You didn't even need a driver anymore. Now, it's continuing to develop the semi- and Cybertruck models, which will soon be available all over the world. What I admire most about Tesla is that it has made all its patents available to the world as open source. This means that anyone can use and modify Tesla's patented technology without legal repercussions. Musk said, "If making Tesla's patents open source will make it easier for other companies to make electric cars, then that's good for humanity, and these ideas should be free." From the beginning of the video, I told you about Elon Musk's Tesla and SpaceX adventures. But is this man only about these 2 companies? Of course not. SolarCity was founded in 2006 and is today one of the world's largest solar energy companies. Hyperloop, a tube-shaped subway project announced in 2013 that will transport people ultra-fast between major centers. OpenAI, a non-profit organization founded in 2015 to address the threat that artificial intelligence could pose to humanity. The Boring Company, a rapid transit system that started in 2016 and is a kind of automobile subway. Neuralink, a neurotechnology company founded in 2016 with a $100 million investment to integrate the human brain with artificial intelligence. Starlink, which sent its first satellite into orbit in 2019. and is expected to serve the 3 billion people in the world who do not have access to the internet. And gigafactories, gigantic factories, for producing both electric motors and Tesla batteries, the first of which was built in 2014 and the sixth is currently under construction, are other major initiatives launched by Elon Musk. And then what? What is this man's ultimate goal? In fact, behind all these initiatives of Elon Musk lies a few big visions. The biggest of these, as many of you know, is to go to Mars and colonize it. The second is to make the Earth more habitable by improving it in terms of issues such as global climate change. His two goals go hand in hand. Musk wants to do something against the possibility of humanity bringing its own end. He believes that Mars can be a habitable planet just like Earth, and he wants to die there. If humanity is confined to one planet, it will surely end one day. Maybe it's an asteroid or a volcano, maybe it's a virus, maybe it's artificial intelligence, or an accidentally created micro-black hole. We don't know, he says. According to him, we have no choice but to become an interplanetary species. And here we come to the conclusion. Elon Musk topped Forbes magazine's 2019 The World's Most Innovative Leaders list. In 2021, Time magazine named him the Person of the Year. As of 2024, his estimated fortune is $200 billion. This makes him one of the richest people alive. Musk did not achieve all this alone, of course. He did it with the best engineers from the best schools worldwide. These people worked as hard as Elon Musk. We should not forget that. I learned 5 lessons from Elon Musk's life that I will apply to my own. I would like to end the video with these. First, give people hope even in troubled times. Second, be prepared for failure by planning for the unexpected. Third, find quick and practical solutions to problems. Fourth, be calm even in the most difficult situations and never give up. Fifth, know your job very well.